Yeah, baby!
It's no secret that Mazdas are fun to drive. With the precision, handling, and chassis dynamics of cars like the Miata, Mazda 3, and CX-5, they've done a very impressive job of competing with much larger Japanese and American companies. Hell, you could be so bold as to call Mazda the BMW or Audi of mainstream budget automakers. But the times they are a-changin', as in recent years Mazda leadership has announced the brand has ambitions to go full luxury. But will customers who love wallet-friendly models like the Miata and Mazda 3 stay loyal to the company as it transitions to compete with the likes of Mercedes SUVs? Can Mazda successfully pivot to being a luxury brand overnight and at the same time make gains in the American market? We'll see. Let's break it down.
Last night I had a dream where I was on this ranch. There are horses everywhere. Not just regular horses. Big, beautiful, sturdy, buff horses. That place is called Buff Horse Ranch. Now, unfortunately, that was just a dream. But these shirts we made are 100% real and 100% cotton. Available now at donamedia.com.
Mazda has been around since 1931, but their first real cars didn't hit the streets of Japan until the early 60s. Their first two models, the two-door R360 Coupe and four-door Micro Mini Carol 360, were both successful and positioned Mazda as a force to be reckoned with within the Japanese lightweight car market. Micro and Mini, huh? In 1970, Mazda made the move to the US, and while they haven't matched the massive global impact of Honda or Toyota, they have managed to become a staple in certain gearhead circles simply because they're fun cars. Their driver-focused cockpits and lightning-quick handling make their cars feel like they're truly made for people who love driving. Another unique part of what makes Mazda unique is their price point. The CX-5 crossover, for example, performs right on par with a budget Beamer or Audi, but it costs a whole lot less, what makes it a particularly intriguing option for regular people who don't have an extra $40K to dump into a German driving experience. But buckle up, muchachos, because Mazda is making a play for the big leagues. On February 28th, Jeremy Thompson, Mazda's UK boss, told Autocar that, quote, "Our aspirations are to become a credible alternative to the traditional mainstream premium, and that means non-German. We're not looking to mimic German premium because that's very well catered for with the existing incumbents and probably impossible to beat them at their own game." You know what? I appreciate the honesty. Basically, it sounds like Mazda believes that there's still room in the increasingly crowded luxury field for a high-end Japanese option. And while Thompson refuted the mimicking German narrative, what I assume will be comparable are the prices, which is a pretty obvious sign as to what motivated Mazda's luxury move in the first place: money. So what's Mazda's place in the market right now? Today, Mazda is valued at just under $4 billion and ranks as the 15th most profitable car manufacturer in the world. I really would have guessed higher. Their fleet is modest but exhilarating, led by the MX-5 Miata, which is one of the best-selling sports cars of all time. Motor Trend named the 2022 Miata #1 in performance convertibles and calls its overall legacy one of the greatest driver's cars ever produced, and anyone who's driven one will tell you that's totally on point. But as the industry shifts away from coupes and sedans, Mazda makes fun little four-bangers like the compact Mazda 3, and also does an admirable job of challenging Honda and Toyota compact crossovers with the surprisingly awesome CX-5 and the family-packing 3-row CX-9. Seriously, I love the CX-5, it's great. But despite a relatively consistent profit margin, Mazda 3 sales were cut in half from 2016 to 2021, with the company's overall sales dropping 14% in the same time period. A big reason for this volatility is that Mazda's mainstream models haven't consistently connected with buyers in the US. The good news is that niche cars like the Miata and the older RX-8 still have a cult following, and more importantly, recent manufacturing moves have positioned Mazda for a stateside improvement. A decade since they split with Ford, Mazda is once again building in the US. this time collaborating with Toyota at their Huntsville, Alabama plant. When the first CX-50 crossovers rolled off the line in January, they came with improvements sussed out by both companies, who are famous for their cost saving and manufacturing efficiency. Mazda believes restarting American production with help from Toyota's rock-solid reputation could be a sales game changer. Quote, "It's a huge advantage for us to be able to learn from Toyota's vast experience in the US," says Masashi Aihara, head of Mazda Toyota Manufacturing USA. Additionally, Mazda has said it plans to launch 13 EVs within the next 3 years, including 5 hybrid models, 5 plug-in hybrids, and 3 pure electric vehicles. Okay, so they're going to be building a lot more cars, but what should we expect in terms of Mazda's luxury? Well, it wasn't long ago when Mazda refreshed the Mazda 3 and CX-5 with upgraded interiors, larger infotainment screens, and sleeker designs that essentially boosted them into that premium bracket. I mean, honestly, it's hard to get a better looking car for the money inside and out these days. Look at this thing. However, Mazda is different from other premium brands. Unlike BMW, Audi, and Mercedes, who deal primarily with rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive vehicles, Mazda, outside of the MX-5 Miata, is primarily a front-wheel drive manufacturer. But that's about to change, as Mazda plans to come out with new inline 6-cylinder engines and rear-wheel drive platforms for new SUVs like the CX-60. The CX-60 represents a significant uptick in luxury for Mazda. It's the first model from Mazda's new large product group that will also span the CX-70, 80, and 90, totaling an impressive 10-strong SUV lineup for the brand. That's a lot of SUVs. Slightly larger than the CX-5, the CX-60 will use Mazda's first plug-in hybrid powertrain, which they call eSkyActiv. This system connects a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine with an electric motor, an 8-speed automatic transmission, and a 17.8 kilowatt-hour battery pack that gives you 323 horsepower and 369 foot-pounds of torque and a freaking crossover. The CX-60, surprisingly, is the most powerful road car Mazda has ever produced. It can rip 0 to 62 miles per hour in 5.8 seconds, which is faster than my car, and will also feature the same kinetic posture control anti-roll tech that recently debuted in the Miata. Kinetic Posture Control, or KPC, improves Mazda's already excellent handling. While you're leaning into a corner, the system brakes the inside rear wheel to tighten the turning radius and reduce body roll. It also works when accelerating through a corner, which adds to the effectiveness of the Miata's limited slip differential. This is pretty sweet stuff. Following the CX-60 in Europe will be a new 3-row SUV called the CX-80, while here in the States we'll get 2 different models, the CX-70 and the CX-90. All 3 of these will use the CX-60's new underpinnings and PHEV powertrain. That means plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. Pricing for the current CX-5 range tops out at around 55 grand, while most German makes start in the mid-70s. That leaves a cute little space for the CX-60 to nestle into at maybe $62,000 to $68,000. Who knows? Mazda may very well have the recipe to rival Krauts like the Audi Q5, BMW X3, and Mercedes GLC, but there are a few less glamorous details that I can't help but point out. Look, I know the Alabama plant sounds promising, but there's a flood of new luxury vehicles on the market that come from established brands already in the segment. Lexus, for example, who has always been referred to as the Japanese Mercedes-Benz, is extremely impressive in their own right, managing to give BMW, Benz, and Audi a run for their money since Toyota introduced the luxury brand in 1989. So that's a big presence right there that Mazda's got to go against. Plus, it's not the first time Mazda's tried to upgrade their image, as some of you probably remember from the doomed Amati brand from the early 90s. We did a whole video on that and a dang podcast. Go check them out. Amati was scheduled to launch in 1994 with the intention of going against various Infiniti, Acura, and Lexus models. Mazda invested hundreds of millions of dollars into the project and had finished at least 2 models. But the Japanese economy tanked in 1992, and that same year, Mazda pulled the plug on Amati. Despite that debacle, I will admit that Mazda, not to mention the Japanese economy, is in a much better place today. So there's a good chance it'll be a happier story this time around. I'm gonna be honest, when I thought of this episode, I was like, yo, no way can Mazda pull this off. But then you really start to think about it and realize, why did I ever think that? They're 15th in profitability, for God's sake. Like, they had to do something. Plus, it's hard to find any serious flaws with any modern Mazdas. They just make really great cars. I'm really sorry I doubted you, Mazda. Mazda has always blazed their own trail. They've developed some of the most interesting and fun to drive vehicles on the road and have also pioneered some really cool technology. If that continues, maybe they can hang in a space between mainstream brands and Japanese luxury automakers in a refreshing new way. Hell, they're named after the Persian god of light and wisdom, so maybe they've got some divine energy leading them into this new phase. Side note, my last name, Sykes, which I'm very proud of, means marshy stream or damp gully. Yeah. Even with my skepticism, I'm glad to hear Mazda isn't trying to be overly ambitious from the get-go. They've clearly stated that they don't intend on becoming the next Mercedes, BMW, or Audi, but instead want to offer something entirely new to catch the eye of restless premium car shoppers looking for a change. Maybe this luxury shift was inevitable, considering Toyota has Lexus, Nissan has Infiniti, and Honda has Acura. At the moment, this is all strategy and brand positioning talk, but maybe Mazda's cars will be so good and so luxurious that the consumer will be convinced they're a legit luxury brand. I'm gonna need all you Mazda heads to sound off in the comments and let us know what you think of these changes. Are you pumped for the CX-60? What have you heard from friends who have driven the new Miata or CX-5? We'll try to get our hands on the new generation models as soon as they're released. Until then, let's continue to enjoy the Mazda we've come to appreciate for decades. Follow me at Nolan J. Sykes. Hit like and subscribe if you like this video. Be kind. I'll see you next time.